Hello, beautiful souls. How you doing? Welcome back. It's Gina, Too Much Woman, and I am over the moon today to be bringing back one of my favorite guests, the amazing Ken Blackman. Hello, Ken. Welcome.
Hi, so good to have these conversations with you.
So good to have these conversations. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes to me and to this audience. We spoke about 6 months ago,
Mhm.
and I was so thrilled at the time to speak with you because it's such a thrill for me to listen to people who are speaking my same language and riding the same wave that I'm speaking on
Exactly
and
how I
about the
feel.
same topics. Yeah. And so, because we spoke at the beginning of COVID or Corona or the lockdown, I find that this time for me, and I'm making a broad assumption about other people, but certainly for me, the past 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, I've been really confronted with myself in a way that, and I choose to live consciously. I think that I do, but I'm confronting parts of myself that either I didn't have time to when I was touring, or I didn't want to, or I was maybe subconsciously tiptoeing around. And so to be in conversation with you again today is such a privilege for me to have the opportunity to dig a little bit deeper on some of the things that I didn't even know during our first conversation.
hmm Yeah,
so,
we have a new
so
perspective on it now.
we sure do. We sure do. So why don't we start off in this space? Can you tell everyone who Ken is? What do we need to know about you?
I'm a I'm a software engineer turned relationship coach. I'm an Enneagram 5 thinker who managed to develop emotional intelligence, and it changed my life so much that I decided to have that be I switched careers and have been doing this literally full time for 20 years and have never looked back. And I'm super thrilled. Like my sessions with my clients are the highlight of my day. And relative to us, I just want to say, like, part of the reason why we vibe so much is because this thing that comes up in my coaching all the time, which is when women really start to step into their power, when they really start to claim their place in the world, our ideas about how relationships work have to change. And so that comes up again and again and again and again and again in my coaching. And I've decided actually to have that be my niche. Like I help couples with the growing pains of when a woman is stepping into her power in the world and as a human being. So that's kind of my jam, and that's why you and I vibe so well, I think.
So well. And first of all, I'm so grateful for you and the work that you do. I really am because I need it. And I love your messages. I love your posts. I love what you stand for. And I don't have the answers. You know, as a former journalist, I'm more interested in the questions themselves. And what you do is you raise questions that allow me to get curious about the things that I've always believed were the truth, capital T. So I want to start in this space, Ken, because I find it's so funny because the work that I do as I show up, I will claim things as though they are truths for me with a capital T. And then I will find, particularly now, because I feel like I'm expanding and evolving so quickly, especially during COVID, because it's like there's nothing else to do. There's nowhere to go but to confront myself and all of my feelings. Um,
Yeah.
that I keep rediscovering what the truth is. And what I mean by truth is just who I am, what I need, and what it means as a woman to reclaim myself as a too much woman. So
hmm
I want to start in this space because for most of my life, what I thought being a powerful woman reclaiming myself, what I thought that looked like was being strong, feisty,
hmm
loud, demanding my needs, like being very clear,
hmm
being a leader in a very
hmm
conventional way, um, being ferocious, taking up space, being larger than life. And the key role models in my life, the women in particular, and even in the media, were powerful in that way. And it worked for a while. I'll be honest, it did work for a while. There was a period of time it worked when I was started off as a speaker. You know, I'm in my 26th year in a male dominated industry, at least it was for most of my career. And I felt I had to man up and be masculine in that way,
Mhm.
to be seen as powerful and to be respected and to be heard. And in some ways, that is still true to a degree. But what I started to notice was that it didn't feel good all the time. It impacted my relationships,
Mhm.
romantic and otherwise. And I started to really question what it meant to reclaim my power, to be a powerful woman, and to show up fully in my too muchness. And this is like literally changing by the month. And so I'd love to just begin the conversation with you, because this is your niche. How would you describe power, or being a powerful woman, or reclaiming your power? What does it truly mean? Because I think there's a lot of nuance there that we may need to unpack and redefine.
Totally. Well, first of all, I just want to start by saying, like, as a man, I do sometimes, say this is what I see happening with women, but all of my knowledge is necessarily crowdsourced. It is not my lived experience. It's only to the degree I can empathetically actually being willing to listen to what women are telling me and being able to like take the time that's necessary for me to understand and really feel what they're talking about. So I am in this conversation, I am necessarily the secondary authority here because you are the one who's living it. So I'm actually tempted to say, can we start with what you're discovering about what it means to be power? Because you did such a fantastic lead up to say, this is evolving for me. I get the sense that you have a new idea. So can we start there?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason I love your perspective, and why I want to have this conversation with you as as you call it, a secondary, is because it's one thing to have clarity for myself about what I
Hmm.
believe, but it's quite another thing to get an honest response,
Yeah,
particularly from a man, because
yeah, yeah.
that's my point of attraction, of how it shows up and what that shows up. Because I hear from a lot of women, and my experience as well is, you know, are men really attracted to a powerful woman? And they say
Right.
that they want one, they say that they do, but what does that really mean? So I'm deconstructing it for myself. Okay, so to quickly answer your question, where I'm power for me now is, it's the energy of peace. It doesn't have anything to prove. Before it was like, I need to I need you to see me this way in order for me
Hmm.
to feel powerful. I need you to respond to me in this way. Even in
Hmm.
the bedroom. I mean, I'm talking, it's all inclusive. I mean, in the bedroom, it was like, I need to be on top and in control. Or in a room full of people, I need to be seen in this way. I mean, it was pervasive. So where I'm shifting now is into a space of where I'm rooted in a deeper
Hmm.
knowing, where I have nothing to prove. And what my intention is, and I'd love you to speak on this. What my intention
Yeah, yeah.
is for people, when they're with me, to feel um, ease. Before, I
Hmm.
think the feeling was, I'm a little bit intimidating and maybe threatening. And I'd always get frustrated with that, because I'm like, am I supposed to tone it down because you don't feel comfortable with me being powerful and me having an opinion? But what I understand now is that true power, in this moment anyway,
Hmm.
I want people to feel like they can exhale with me, and they can open up with me, and they can trust me, and be vulnerable, and maybe be open to intimacy with me. And that feels way more powerful than dominance.
Totally. First of all, I love what you just said. And I do have some thoughts. I want to offer some languaging that is the languaging that I use for what it is I think you're talking about. Because what you just said resonates with me and what I see so much. So this is what I see. There is a progression. At the bottom of the progression is acquiescence, meaning you don't even have the self enough of a self to push back on anything. You're an acquiescent yes to whatever happens, and you think you have to be that way in order to get whatever it is that you need. The next level the next level in the progression would be boundaries. Like the first place from acquiescence, the first place that we claim our power is actually in our capacity to say no to something, to say no to something. And then that's like the first time we have boundaries, we're kind of claiming a self. And then after that, there's like kind of a combative, like I need to create my own thing. I need to like take my stand in the world. I need to like show up. I need to like be like in this kind of forceful way, claim my space, right? And then what can come after that is this kind of inner rightness that is unshakable, this inner rightness. And I use that word a lot, like rightness. You are so right within yourself that a lot of the threats are no longer threats. And you get to this place. I love the phrase you use. I don't have anything to prove anymore. Like I don't have to prove anything, right? And then where that can go from there is a place of like, I've got mine. Now I can actually, have my attention on the people around me, not from I'm giving from a place of not having anything myself, or I'm giving in order to be seen, or I'm giving in order to hopefully get mine someday, like, like kind of a
Right.
transactional thing. But
Right.
I'm in my fullness, I'm in my rightness, I'm in my unshakableness, I'm in my power, my true power. And I can actually, from that place, operate from generosity. I can operate from attentiveness. I can operate from like, I'm the powerful person. When you're the powerful person in the room, you can take care of everyone in the room. You can have everyone in the room leave feeling better than they started.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes a new level of power. And then after that, when we're talking about especially intimate or romantic or sexual relationships, from there, when you find someone to whom you can surrender, it's no longer acquiescence. You're like, it's a surrender that feels delicious and wonderful and almost like devotional, like
Mm-hmm.
there's no loss of power in the surrender of it. And so like that,
I,
how does
I'm
that
trying
land?
to like, I'm trying to like compartmentalize my questions. I'm like, oh my God, I have to unpack. Hold on. I'm like salivating. Okay. I don't even know where to start. Okay. Focus. A few things you said, just like, oh. So one of the new awarenesses that I've had for myself, I want to say three things. So I don't want to forget them. I'm going to say them really quickly. One of the new
Great.
awarenesses I had for myself was I, as you know, my father left as a young child. I had an awareness early on that I had a fear of abandonment. It was very clear to me that this was the healing work that I had to do. I worked on it in my 20s. I thought I was very conscious, and I thought I was overriding it by being attracted to men who I would feel secure with because they were less powerful. So if they needed me, if I could save them, if I could fix them, if they were less than, then I would feel in control. I could hook them in. They would need me. It would be transactional and it would work. And I saw that as me just being a good girl. I convinced myself that I was people pleasing and I was a good girl because I'm a good person. I talk about this a lot. So my people are like rolling their eyes. But I really convinced myself it was because I was good and I wanted to help people, not understanding that it was actually transactional and it was serving a need within me to be with someone who was indebted to me almost, or who relied on me so that they would stay.
Mhm.
So once I've worked through that, and there's still remnants for sure, but once I got over the big hump of that, what changed was my point of attraction and the kind of person I was attracted to. And this has a lot to do with power because what you said just rings so true. Now I don't want to be the most powerful one always, the traditional sense of power in relationship. I don't want to be the one calling all the shots. I don't want to be the one being dominant always in the bedroom or always in relationship. I actually want a place where I can go, just take me, like
Mhm.
or just take care of
Handle
me, or
me.
Yeah. And I think, I was thinking of 50 Shades, like, why is that so, it was, there's this undercurrent of like, just, we have this ferocity, this need to be seen and heard and reclaim our power. And on the opposite end, what nobody's really talking about is, I really just want someone like I just want that alpha male to sometimes to be. So I've struggled with that as a strong woman. Okay, so I needed to say
Yeah.
that. Is there anything you want to say about that before I jump into the next thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm so glad.
but do remember your two next ones.
Okay.
We're bookmarking and we're not going to drop those.
Mm-mm.
But I have to say this because what we're talking about requires a level of nuance from your partner that needs to be spoken about. Because men tend to pick one or the other. Like their shtick is either supporting this powerful woman and being the supportive, the supportive person, or being the alpha who can meet her and like give her a solid enough thing that she can surrender into because she's so strong and masculine in her world and she wants to come home and be feminine, that kind of thing. And what you're talking about when you actually have a woman who's genuinely in her true power, the kind of power that you're talking about now, he needs to know how to do both of those things and to have it be a dynamic game, a dynamic dance where sometimes he just handles her, right? He handles her in a way like if she's thrashing, that may actually be pointed towards him as the enemy, or he may be throwing that at him. And he needs to not only, not be knocked out by that, but to handle her so he can get both of them into better territory. And
Mm.
also like not like men who have that skill often will end up belittling the woman when she's ready to take the lead and take the relationship in a direction. So the finesse of being able to notice her in the moment and see her in the moment and intuit the right thing to do and then have the courage to actually do it when it might be a little scary, like that takes those are the skills that I'm focusing on in men these days. I don't really talk about masculinity or femininity. I talk about these basic skills like you know confidence and intuition and
Mm.
things like that. That's like the new skill set for men in relationships.
Absolutely. And could you do us all a favor and just post a list of the men who graduate from your program so that where are these men? I mean, I'm being a little facetious. Like the truth is, I do sometimes in the quiet moments wonder, is this too tall an order? Because, and as a too much woman, a self-proclaimed too much woman, deciding that I'm no longer going to morph or bulldozer who I am, too emotional, too dramatic, too ambitious, too sensitive, to all the things that I've diminished, that I'm going to embrace those parts of myself as I am, that I don't want to shapeshift in order to acquiesce to get someone to be willing to dance this dance with me, because
Mhm,
ultimately it's going to come up. Um,
mhm,
my curiosity is around, and I want to say this, my curiosity is around the nuance that you describe, because how can I, thank you for giving me permission to ask this question, how can I be both a woman who knows herself, is strong and rooted in herself, and also in a very feminine way, uh, wants to be not strong,
mhm.
wants to be soft
Right.
and
You don't want
and
to be strong all the
vulnerable,
time.
or yeah. So
Yeah.
um it's a tough thing, because particularly as my public persona, and I'm challenged with this all the time, is that I have strong opinions and I have strong words, and my pictures are fierce and strong, and I'm always questioning, how do I communicate that but also allow space for the wholeness of me, which also wants to be the little spoon and like,
Yeah, yeah,
you know
yeah.
And be seen and understood in my vulnerability. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll start by saying I'm writing a book, and
Yes.
like it's like we fundamentally need a new from the ground up a new model of how intimate relating works. And so that's been percolating for a few years now, and now I'm actively writing the book that kind of lays out this is a new way of looking at relationships. In the meantime,
Grateful that you're doing that. We're waiting with bated breath. Yes. In
yeah.
the meantime.
In the meantime, here's some things. You have to know yourself. So, like a person, a woman, it happens with men too. But since we're talking about this side of it, like it's worse if you're not conscious of like you can be all kinds of ways, but if you're not conscious of your motives or your reasons, it's going to be much worse. So first of all, to at least be honest with yourself about why you're being certain ways, right? Oops, sorry. And then so secondly is to be straight up honest with your guy, right? Be straight up honest with him. And then like you can train your partner to the point where you don't have to train him. You can train him to the point where he knows you better than you know yourself. Like my goal is for guys to show up kind of, it almost feels to the woman like he has ESP, like he knows he's noticing her and witnessing her at a level that's kind of beyond, like he knows her better than sometimes better than she knows herself. That is a skill he needs to develop. And um, what it takes is for you to reveal yourself and be honest and be willing to train him to the point where he gets the pattern. And it won't be his logical rational mind. His logical rational mind is actually kind of in the way, because what he's going to try and do is come up with formulas or algorithms or heuristics like, oh, when I see this expression, that means this, and that means I need to do this. So he needs to get his logical mind out of the way and get his intuitive mind, his empathetic mind going. But if you're honest with him about what you need in the moment, pretty soon he'll get to where he can actually handle you, whichever way you're being. Like, what's the weather pattern? Like my girlfriend says here, she in like literally this morning, she's like, she told me something about what she was thinking and feeling, right? And we have this new metaphor of like the weather pattern. What's the weather pattern today, right? Which gives her permission to be all these different kinds of ways. And for me, it's fun. Like when she's right. Like I have gotten to the place where I can have fun with that, right? Like there's a dozen different options for me of how to handle that. She can't, like that rightness that we were talking about, right? Like she can't hurt me. It's just a fun game, and that allows her to be any way and feel handled.
Well, first of all, holy shit, Ken. Like, like, holy shit. Because what you're describing is so foreign to
Mm.
many of our experiences that it almost feels like like fantasy. It
Mm-hmm.
almost feels like one of those fantasy novels. Because
Yeah.
and I say this, I mean, with all the respect, I'm not making light of it, but what I mean by that is you said a few triggering words for me, and the triggering words are train him, handle
Mm-hmm.
her, and
Mm-hmm.
there's this undoing, this unlearning, a story that we all, many of us have believed for a long time, that when you find the one, when you find the emotionally available mature man, when you find the soulmate, whatever this ridiculous language that we use, when you find that thing, he'll know.
Yeah.
And the suggestion that you're making, that we need to train or teach our partner, um, is both exciting and frustrating.
Yeah.
because on the one hand, it's like, wow, okay, so we have permission now to say, look, here's who I am, especially dating, like, especially when you're starting, like, here's who I am. This is the awareness that I have about myself, and I need you to meet me here. Like, and on the other end, saying, holy, I'm so tired of doing all this work. Like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and 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 is he trainable, and is he willing, and how do you find someone who can go there with you? And he says he can and he wants to, and then is incapable. Like, there's so much there.
There is
But
so,
there's not
so,
even a
so much
question in
there.
that. But yeah, I'm just venting.
Well, no, no, no. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's a few things
Okay.
here. First of all, I have come to understand that great relationships are, and everyone argues with me about these numbers. I stand by these numbers. It's
Okay.
about 10% finding the right person and 90% what you co-create together over time. That a relationship gets in, becomes great. It can become greater than where it started. So that's the
10%?
first.
Hold on. Hold on. Let's duke this out for a moment. 10%.
If
So
you
what you're
find,
saying, let me just clarify. So 10% is how they come to relationship, and 90% is the work that you put. Is that what you're saying?
like, what your relationship can become is so far
Mhm.
beyond where you started. Like,
Okay.
everyone thinks of relation. See, the myth of happily ever after, the entire story, we like the entire fairy tale is the process of finding the person, and then these roadblocks happen, and then finally you get the person, and the story ends there because happily ever after.
Right.
But I'm a relationship coach. So I'm looking at what happens once you're together. So all of my focus is on how you get from where you are. And people come to me with problems. And by the time we're done, they're in a completely different place. So the what goes along with this is, um, if he doesn't know shit, which was me. I didn't know shit. I was a software engineer. I was backwards. I was terrible with women.
But you
Look
had
who
the
I've become.
desire,
I
right?
had
Like
the desire.
okay.
So finding a guy who doesn't have the skills yet, but is trainable and has the interest.
Mm,
Trainable and has the interest is
that's important.
better is better than the guy who shows up looking like he has everything. Because if it's a lifelong relationship, there's going to be places where he needs to learn. He can't. Men don't know women. A man will know you, and he will spend the rest of his life getting to know you. So whatever he was at the time that he met you, his process is going to be dialing into you, the specific, complex, unique woman in front of him. So I actually don't believe in men who are good with women. I believe in men who are willing to put the attention on a woman, the woman that he wants to be with, and learn her and discover her and meet her. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And I'm going to be I'm just going to be very honest. The thoughts that come up as you're saying that are, where are these men? Like,
Yeah.
it requires such a level of a okay, so we talked, so desire for sure, but then also the willingness to go there. Like, let's talk intimacy for a moment, because it's a big word, and what I'm hearing and experiencing is a lot of, I hate painting broad strokes here, but it's like, the fear of intimacy. It's like, I don't want this. So this encompasses everything from ghosting, from I don't want a relationship, to these long situational dating episodes, to, like, I'm talking pre-relationship, right? Like, all of this fear of getting close to, um, is there a way to meet someone and start to invite in or bridge or entice, maybe that's a triggering word, but the desire to trust and be open to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That went all over the place, but
No,
are you hearing?
it's a nuanced question, but I get the
Okay.
transmission. So
Okay.
where I have the most success with men these days, like the conversation that I'm in with men is, um, it isn't an either or. Like I speak to a lot of men who, on the surface, if you ask them, will say, "Oh yeah, I love these confident, powerful women," but they get in there with an actual woman, and they haven't been given the skills of how to handle her or how to meet. And I'll drop the word handle, how to meet her in all the different places that she is, and they're kind of intimidated, and they're actually more comfortable with a woman who is kind of a fragile, broken wing bird, because it calls forth their provider, their protector, like all that stuff, right? Like it's just kind of the reverse of what you were talking about, right? If I can find someone who needs me in this
Mm,
kind of needy, clingy way, that there, a lot of men are more in their comfort zone there. So
yeah.
the conversation I'm having with men is how much better the relationship is when they're with a woman who's in her fullness, in her fully claiming who she is. How much better the relationship is for him, so that he doesn't feel like he doesn't feel like you need to be smaller in order for him to feel full.
Yes.
And so I want to ask you a question, which is, do you believe? Because whether you believe this or not will transmit to the guy.
Hmm.
Whether you believe that you're the shit, the way I believe you're the shit, and that a guy, like, having a relationship with you is fucking amazing. Do you walk around, like, if you quietly, in your confidence and in your rightness and in your true power and in your nothing to prove, if you I suspect if you sit in that in a way he can feel, he'll pick up on it and he'll start to see what's
Hmm.
possible.
Yeah. I don't know how to say this and be pretty about it. So I'm going to just say it and trust that you and my community will, that you love me enough, or at least are open enough to hear it.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I'm the prize. I feel like what I mean by that is I'm as clear as I I I'm I I'm clear about the places I drop the ball. I'm working intentionally on areas that I know I have to work on. And at the same time, I'm very clear about what I have to offer. And I just think, wow, some guy is gonna be they're gonna hit the freaking jackpot. I do feel that. I feel that
Yeah.
strongly. Now, here I'm gonna throw back a question to you in that place.
Great.
I'm really, and this was one of the questions that I said I want to pin, and I almost forgot, but it came back up, thank goodness. So the idea that a man, and you correct me, please stop me anywhere where I'm saying something completely off base. The idea that a man needs to feel needed, needs to feel like he has a role, needs to provide in some way. I mean, in 2020, provide something in some way, feel some need for the woman. That sometimes rubs up against the opposite, apparent opposite, that a woman is self-sufficient, that she wants you, not needs you, that she can take care of herself. Because I hear both sides of the coin. I hear that men really want to know that they're needed and they have a place, and I also hear that they're very attracted to a woman that where they don't feel like, oh, there's this heavy neediness about her that's like, oh, I just want her to know that she'll take care of her happiness and she's good, so we can just enjoy time together. So which one is it?
Well, we have to give context here, which is that like I'm speaking from the point of view of a messenger in the world who's dedicated to bringing something that is new and better to the world. So I totally, having been there myself, understand the feeling that men have, that they want to feel needed, they want to feel, they want to feel well used. Like when she has a problem, he can be a hero, right? So
Yes.
there's a model that wherein the relationship is at its best when she has problems that he can fix. And my message is that is a broken model. It does not lead to the best relationships. So we can either go with our pre-existing conditioning, or we can gently, lovingly invite him into the new thing, knowing that it's going to be better for him. So my recommendation to you and to women is not to accommodate something that, because it feels good based on our current conditioning, that doesn't lead to a good relationship. Like, let's talk specifically in the bedroom. I won't get explicit here, but I want to say, like, I have this conversation a lot with people, and it's like what I'm saying to men is, guys, the sex that you're attempting to have is mediocre sex, and you don't realize how much better the sex will be if you put 10 times more attention on her body than what you're putting. Like, it's going to be worth it for you if you do it. I'm not asking you to do a chore. I'm asking you to do what it takes to have a better sex life for both of you. It's going to be great for her. It's going to be way, 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 way better for you. So expanding that analogy, um, if you build your relationship on the model where he gets to be the hero by fixing your problems, you're creating a relationship where your job is to have problems. And that is not the territory you as a woman, you in particular, and your tribe, that's not the direction you're going. So keep going in the direction you're going. You're going to need a new model for how relationships happen, you being the new you. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
so the short answer is, please don't compromise. Be
Yeah.
who you are and invite men to see how much better it will be.
Okay. Let's step 1 foot deeper into this because I have my eye on the time and this is so crucial for those in
Yeah, this is a good one,
relationship.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's so good. Oh, I could talk to you forever. For those in relationship currently, you're in a space, and this is a lot of my people as well. You're in a space where you're currently in a relationship, and you have come to a place in yourself where you are dedicated to reclaiming yourself in some capacity. For some, it's fitness. For some, it's starting a new career, whatever it is. And here you are putting all of this loving intention on growing yourself, knowing yourself, bettering yourself, expanding yourself, reclaiming your power. And your partner is not in that space. And and there's conflict or tension around that because here, and this was my experience so much, so that's why it's kind of a selfish question, but here you are as a woman on this intended path and your partner is not. And so when you're describing what you're describing, it's like, how do you invite them into that space? I mean, I know one of the ways is to get your coaching, because I think who the hell wouldn't benefit from that? Everybody would. But how do you manage that as a woman? And when do you decide it's worth it? And gosh, there's so many questions around this. Now we've
Yeah,
we've
yeah,
dug
yeah, yeah,
ourselves a
yeah.
hole. But I guess the question is, there are a lot of women in my tribe who are like, this is my time, this is me, and they're in relationship already. How do you what do you do with that?
It's going to be tough, but it's going to be tough. But if you succeed, it's worth it. So
What do we do with the
I
guy? How do we what
yeah,
might be
I
one or two tips to
yeah.
engage him in that process?
Okay. So again, I'm gonna just because it's easy, I'm gonna use the metaphor of what's happening in the bedroom because
I love it. Yeah.
this is a small example that we can extrapolate to the bigger picture of the relationship as a whole. So let's say hypothetically that in the sex that you've been having, you don't always speak up when you're not feeling that much. You don't always speak up when something doesn't quite feel good. Like he's so in his experience that, like he's been attentive to you, and then as soon as he gets inside of you, he takes his attention off of you because now he's deep in his pleasure, and he's not noticing, or maybe, like, you kind of exaggerate a little bit. Let's say you just subtly put on a little bit of a show because he likes it. And it's just a pattern that's been established. And now you're fucked because the pattern has been established. So anything you do to shift the pattern is going to be disruptive and it's going to sting. He's going to have to confront some things that are going to be uncomfortable for his ego. So there's a conversation that you have to have where you start to let him in on the reality of how your experiences has been. So the only thing I can say here is, number one, it's necessary. It's necessary. Number two, it's going to sting his ego, but if he's actually, the right person for you, he's going to be at least 51% grateful that you're talking about it, even if he's 49% like devastated by this news about this thing. But he'll be 50% grateful that you're having the conversation. Mm-hmm. And then what I say to the men, and what you can say to the men is, I'm trying to get you into an arena of how our love life could be that is going to be better for both of us. This isn't me versus you. You're not going to lose anything. I'm not taking anything away from you. I want you to feel what it feels like when I'm getting off that well for real. I promise you will notice a difference. Mm. And what I say to the guys is, once you're in the territory where you know how to pleasure her and get her to get off for real, yeah, you're going to be inoculated against any, like, you're not going to want even the most Oscar worthy performance because you can tell the difference. It feels different. So you as the woman can know that you're doing right by him in bringing this up. You are trying to get both of you into territory that's going to be better for both of you, and just be a stand for the relationship being better than it is. And we'll see if he's a stand-up guy, and in the face of his ego being bruised, that he actually wants a relationship with you that's where it's getting better, and be ready to risk that he might not want to go in that direction.
Yeah. I love your honesty about this, and I love the clarity around having the conversation, inviting them to know that it's actually not, because I want this, but because this is better for the both of us, that we're both going to benefit from it. And then knowing that if there's even just that 1%, the 51% of them being intrigued enough, interested enough, willing enough, desiring enough, then that's enough to know. Because a lot of the question that comes up in my group is, how do I even know if this is worth working on? Like, how do I even know if I should just wrap it up, call it a day? And I love that there's that.
Yeah, don't do either of those. Tell him the vulnerable truth and see how he shows up. And keep telling him, like, you don't necessarily have to leave. Just keep telling him, being a stand for what you want in the relationship, and telling him the truth, and let him either choose you or not choose you. Let him go in, like, you're taking both of you in a better direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I hate that time flies by. So in our last minute, I just don't even, I can't even. Okay, let's make this just really, really tangible so that people have something juicy to walk away with. Whether or not you are in a committed relationship, the reason I want to have this conversation with you is I want to create a pattern interrupt for people. You're going along, and what can we do to create a pattern interrupt, whether it's in relationship, in dating, in your self-awareness, in how the energy that you emit, which attracts a certain level of person. What would you say would be one or two tips to create a pattern interrupt in how we show up? That
I don't know if I can answer that question But I will say this,
Okay.
as a man, I'm begging you, I'm beseeching you, be you, be
Mm,
you. Keep showing up as who you are, and let the people who don't understand it not understand it, be willing to explain it if they're interested. Let the people be drawn to you who are drawn to you. Let the people who are repelled by you be repelled by you. Like, be a magnet. Magnets equally attract and repel. So just make your magnet super strong so that you can attract the people who vibe with you and repel the people who don't. And including your current or your future partner. Just be you. And I don't know any other way to say it. Just be a stand for who you want to be in the world, and trust that the right people will be drawn to you. That's the best way to do it. And that goes for me too, you know.
yeah. I want to both high five, hug, and kiss you all at the same time because I think we all need on some level to hear this and be reminded of it over and over and over again. Not to dim, not to squelch,
Yeah.
not to figuring that we have to be a certain way, but knowing and trusting the deep
Yeah.
trust, the deep trust that as we are, who we are in our fullness, in our too muchness, that's the language I use,
Mhm.
will, when we clearly stand in that space and accept it for ourselves. For me, that was the first
Mhm.
step, is to like look at myself and say, this isn't wrong about you. How you
Mhm.
are, I actually, these are all the good things about being to this and to that. Will actually magnetize not only romance or the kind of relationship, but the tribe, the friendships, the opportunities, the
Mhm.
abundance. So thank you for reminding us one more time with feeling, and hearing it from a man just takes
Mhm.
it to a whole nother level. Final thoughts, Ken, anything you want to say that you want to leave us with? I'll just let you have the final word.
Um, the days of women conforming to society's expectations are over because it never served anybody, and we know that now. So, you know, just be who you are.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken Blackman. Thank you for existing and the work that you do. Can't wait for your book. We can find you on social media as Ken Blackman.
KenBlackman.com. I'll also give you a link to my where my blog lives, and so if people want to read some of the stuff that I write about.
Yeah, you're brilliant. You're committed to your work, and you are such a gift to the too much woman in the world. So I am eternally grateful for you. Thank you for saying yes.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you.